What's going on, everybody? It's yours truly. I'm the one and only Mr. Telefarrell, A.T. Telefarrell, whatever you want to call me. Some call me Pharaoh. As long as you're calling, that's all I need from you guys. Welcome to episode 4 of the Hoops Pharaoh podcast. So there's been about a week's time since I last dropped an episode. That probably will not happen again for a very long time. My plan is to drop episodes frequently. Obviously, basketball season is right around the corner. My plan is to drop an episode every day. Obviously, I don't think I'm going to be able to implement that plan every day, but that's the plan, and I plan to do it as much as I can during the season with highlights night in, night out. The reason why it's been a week since I dropped my last episode, if I'm being honest with you guys, I was out of town over the weekend with my wife as she celebrated her birthday. So we went out of town. We had some fun. Anybody out there that's married or in a serious relationship, y'all already know how it gets. Them freaking birthdays and them holidays, especially them birthdays, are oftentimes non-negotiables. Mix that in with the fact that I've been enjoying football like crazy. That's how we got to this place of a week without your boy dropping an episode here on the Hoops Pharaoh channel. That probably will not happen again. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't expect another week to go by without your boy dropping an episode for a very long time. Y'all let me know what y'all want me to mix it up with a couple of football podcasts here until the NBA season really gets going. We got pretty much a little dry 2 to 3 week period right now. Maybe I can mix it up with some Deion Sanders talk. Maybe I can mix it up with some NFL talk as well. I do watch the sports. I wouldn't say I cover them, but I do watch them in great detail. Let me know if that's something y'all want. I will definitely give y'all whatever y'all want, you know? I'm not trying to just put myself out there as if I'm just an escort or something like that, but your boy's a man of the people, all right? So thank y'all so much for the love. This episode is dedicated to Stephen A. Smith and the world of sports television today. As many of you guys know, I spent a brief time at the Worldwide Leader in Bristol, Connecticut at the time. As an intern, my job was to make highlights for SportsCenter. I took my job to the next level. I got to meet some producers of shows. I worked on His and Hers. And then I got to get to the big dog, which was First Take, in which I got to work with Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith for about 3 weeks, and Molly as well at the time. For about 3 weeks, you know, just kind of shadowing them. We're going to dedicate this episode to Stephen A. You know, since that time frame, Stephen A. has catapulted his brand to newer and greater heights. He is by far the guy in sports television today. I think Pat McAfee has clearly made himself number 2, and in the future will be number 1. But for right now, Stephen A. Smith is the top dog in the space, and he's been in the news for a multitude of reasons. So what we're going to do is play my new intro. Let me know if you're rocking with it or not. I'm going to play my intro, and then we'll get into Stephen A. Smith. We're talking Stephen A. and Terrell Owens, Stephen A. and Max Kellerman, and even Stephen A. and Shannon Sharp versus Skip Bayless. A packed episode for you guys. I think y'all going to enjoy it a lot. Stay tuned. The Hoops Pharaoh podcast is on the way.
I want to salute you, homie, you know, for building your own thing and doing your own thing.
Why build theirs when I believe I can build my own?
You've already done it, or I wouldn't be here.
I'm already the only elite sports and music journalist in the game today. My goal is simple: to be the best there's ever been. So, please don't go. Make sure you subscribe and follow the journey. It truly means everything to me. I tell stories. I talk music. I cover sports. I am culture. I am Pharaoh. Stephen A. was in a feisty mood with T.O. on Twitter. The former NFL wide receiver and Hall of Famer Terrell Owens quote tweeted a fan that pretty much was alluding to an old segment in which Terrell Owens said Max Kellerman was blacker than Stephen A. Smith on First Take. Stephen A. responded to T.O. and said, "Now, as far as this dude, that's an entirely different story. You know how I feel about your sorry ass, and you know why. You should thank your heavenly Father I haven't zeroed in on you with the triflingness you tried to pull. Tell folks to ask ESPN what your desperate ass tried to pull. Keep on talking. Eventually, you'll expose yourself." T.O.'s response to Stephen A. was, "Yo, like I said, I'm not worried about being exposed because this is nothing." He went on to say, "Yo, I was just retweeting something that somebody else said. I stand on it. Number 2, I don't lie. And as far as all the players, GMs, NFLPAs that you claim to have reached out to, so what? Guess what? I've had players and people reach out to me too. What does that statement even mean? If I've done something so wrong, then why hasn't it been all over the news? I don't chirp. I don't claim to be no badass. I don't bother nobody. You alluded to that. I'm desperate because an attorney reached out to me about the ESPN situation. I don't play victim like you say, but it is what it is. But I want you to keep that same energy you're giving to the people about my sorry and pathetic ass when you see me. Kyrie Irving somehow got involved in this and said, at Stephen A. Smith, can y'all call each other like grown, mature men and clear the air without all of that extra social media back and forth? Get what you need off your chest and move on. Stephen A. even responded to Kyrie and said, respectfully, bro, you don't know the whole story. I have nothing to say to his sorry, pathetic ass, but that doesn't mean you are wrong. You are right. I'm a man enough to admit that. I will stand down. So many different elements. Can somebody please tell Kyrie Irving to use his own advice? I'm so sick of that, man. Listen to me. This is me talking here. Before we get into what Stephen A. and T.O. were going back and forth about, listen, Kyrie Irving is a phenomenal basketball player. He's going to go down in the history of social media as probably their GOAT of all time. They love Kyrie. They think he's, y'all think he's the GOAT? Hey, y'all think he's better than Steph Curry? That's y'all business. I don't think that at all. Not even remotely close. I understand his skill set is second to none. Y'all got it. I don't even care. But what I hate more than anything is somebody that plays victim all the time and somebody that does not live by the advice that they give. They got every advice in the world to give other people, but I have not seen people move that way when they were in positions to be the mature person. All I've heard is stories about guys not talking to teammates, guys treating GMs and VPs and executives like crap, not wanting to come to work, leaving their teammates out to dry, not showing up to playoff games because they were going to get dental surgery. I have only heard of the guys that claim to be on this Kumbaya saga. I have only heard stories about them not being the great people that they want everybody to be. And I'm sick of it, bro. Y'all got all the advice in the world on how to be as people, and I never see y'all move like that with y'all contemporaries. I'll digress. Back to Stephen A. and Terrell Owens. Yeah, so like I said, I briefly worked with Stephen A. Smith. I actually don't know what the heck is going on with Stephen A. like from a career standpoint, because I have to at least admit to you, and Stephen A. will want anybody covering him to be honest about how they feel. Stephen A. has made some pivots in his brand, and we're going to talk about it a lot more in the next segment, in which we're going to kind of backpedal and talk about Max Kellerman and what Stephen A. said about Max more. But in regards to what he said to T.O., Stephen A. comes from the school of journalism. Like, I gained my respect and my love for Stephen A. as a reporter before anything else. Obviously, when he got with Skip, which was a close friend of his for years, they kind of created this mode of debate television that we all consume today, whether we want to or not. It is how sports go, right? And it pulled Stephen A. from reporter mode into debater. And obviously, it went from 100% reporter to like 80% reporter, 20% debater. And then obviously, First Take became this big entity. And then it becomes Stephen A.'s like 90% debater, 10% reporter. And now he's pretty much 100% debater, the biggest entity in sports television. And he's not a reporter anymore. I gained my love and respect for Stephen A. the reporter. To me, Stephen A. Smith, the reporter, the legendary reporter that he is, from a basketball perspective, would be ashamed of Stephen A. Smith, the debater that he is today. I don't know who that guy is. And I love Stephen A. I respect him dearly. I want to work with the brother again on a future project. I don't know what the heck is going on. I see some brand differences. I don't know who the heck is around Stephen A. But clearly, this dude who always has felt himself, let's be clear, Stephen A. is he's got that swag and that confidence. But nowadays, it's I'm rich and I want y'all to know I'm the most powerful man in the room. That's the bravado that I get for him. And I don't like it because behind the scenes, the truth is, when I was at ESPN, nobody walked up to me more than Stephen A. Smith talking to young black interns. Yo, are you good? How they treating y'all? I'm saying he would do it every week. Yo, y'all good? Y'all know if something ain't right, y'all know I know the higher-ups. I'll talk to somebody for y'all. This is who the brother is. I've also had the pleasure of meeting Terrell Owens. I saw T.O. turn down pictures for kids. So, look, don't take my few instances with Stephen A. or my one instance with T.O. as the end-all, be-all. All I'm going to say is I've watched Stephen A. do a lot of great things for people. The one instance I saw Terrell Owens in person at a celebrity game, he literally turned down pictures with kids. I thought it was disgraceful. I've only ever seen 2 athletes do that in my life, and I've been to a lot of events and covered a lot of celebrity games. It's been Terrell Owens and Allen Iverson, and the irony is their entire careers they play victim. Literally, I was around AI and T.O. one time apiece, and it took me 5 minutes to realize, oh, that's why you got traded so much. Oh, that's why things didn't work out the way you wanted to when you were no longer that great player that you were in your prime. And that's what I feel. That's what I feel. So, I mean, apparently Stephen A. is alluding to Terrell Owens trying to sue him over those comments that were made. Apparently, like T.O. said, Stephen A. brought an off-the-air conversation on air, and T.O.'s legal team tried to, like, sue Stephen A. and ESPN over that. Stephen A. said he did nothing wrong, that he never brought a conversation from behind the camera to on the camera. I don't know who's telling the truth. I don't know who's lying. I don't have any access to any paperwork. The reality is Stephen A. Smith and T.O., if they were just at the game in Colorado together, I don't think they're ever going to square up. I don't think these dudes are going to squabble. Y'all for damn sure better not do that at Colorado with what Deion's building right now. Don't make that brother look bad. I think these two dudes are just going to agree to not be around each other because Terrell Owens is in great shape and Stephen A. looks pretty damn good for his age. I don't think Stephen A. is playing by some of the words he said. He used some strong words. Now, again, Stephen A. is in the content space. Like, he's really been pushing content. Like, some of the things he said to T.O., I thought were out of pocket. Like, even bringing up that man's deceased father, I thought was out of pocket. Like I said to y'all, as much as I got respect for Stephen A., I don't think Stephen A., the reporter, would be proud of Stephen A., the debater. He's made a lot of money. I ain't mad at it. I would have did the same damn thing. I would have left reporting to be what he is on television today. I just see a brand shift. I don't know if there's different people around Stephen A. nowadays, but some of the things he says online, it's different from the guy that I met and loved, man. And we're going to talk about that more in the next segment here on the Hoops Pharaoh podcast. Please stay tuned. Stephen A. Smith was recently a guest on the Joe Budden podcast, and he went in great detail about what went wrong with himself and his former co-host, Max Kellerman. Stephen A. said, I would take full responsibility for that. It was totally my fault, and the reason why it was my fault is I didn't like working with Max. It was just that damn simple. I didn't like it. I thought the show was stale. I thought that we had flatlined when it came to the public at large. I didn't want to go from number 1 to number 2 when Skip Bayless left. I wasn't having that. That ish wasn't going to happen. I have mad respect for him from the standpoint he's a white dude that's highly intelligent, Ivy League educated from Columbia, smart as a whip, can talk his ass off, can talk about anything. I get all that. But you weren't an athlete and you weren't a journalist, and the absence of those two components left people wondering, why should we listen to you? Okay, well, you might have figured out that on Sports Nation, or you might have figured that out on another show, but on this show, if you looked at the content emanating from the social stratosphere, meaning YouTube and other components used to measure, one is cachet, Q ratings, focus groups, and all of these different things, I was damn near doing the show by myself because we were oceans apart in terms of cachet. Well, how are you oceans apart from me if you're sitting across from me 5 days a week for the whole 2 hours? Because one of us is resonating and one of us is not in that platform. That's what Stephen A. had to say about Max on the Joe Budden podcast, which if anybody follows my music page, y'all know that JBP is my favorite podcast to watch. But I got to call a spade a spade. Stephen A., that's ridiculous, man. Like, I love this brother, man. I want y'all to understand, I love this brother. One of the reasons why I wanted to continue me going after a journalism degree was because of Stephen A. Smith and the late, great Stuart Scott, who was the first ever entry into the business was watching Stuart Scott every single night of my childhood. I got to call a spade, man. Stephen A's not making a lot of sense. And what do I mean by that, right? By his definition of Max Kellerman, he wouldn't work with the Mad Dog gentleman, right? Because Mad Dog has a long tenure in radio. If Mad Dog was a journalist back in the day, I don't believe him to be a good one. Just the way he talks now. I mean, hell, for crying out loud, I saw earlier on the show this week, he was talking about getting high, eating gummies. That ain't journalism integrity. And I can argue this, as much as I love the Joe Budden podcast, you just did Cam and Mace's It Is What It Is. That's entertaining as hell. You did JBP. Stephen A., I know you're giving lobs to other outlets, but that doesn't really make sense. How can you be comfortable giving other outlets the brush and the lob, but you weren't cool with working in front of that? That doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And can we tell it how it is in regards to what went wrong with Stephen A. and Max? The reality is Stephen A. worked with Skip Bayless. And as I've told y'all before, I'll tell y'all again, Stephen A. Smith's entire brand was built off Skip Bayless' brand. I can argue potentially the same thing for Shannon Sharp. Only time will tell. I actually think Shannon Sharp has a couple more layers in his package, though. We'll see. I know he's doing the podcast with Chad Ochocinco, and then obviously he's working on First Take a couple days a week as well. We'll talk about Shannon and Stephen A. in the next segment in greater detail. But for now, Max and Stephen A. didn't work because Max wasn't playing the Skip Bayless brand. If we're going to be honest, a lot of Skip Bayless's takes are ridiculous, right? He's trying to sell you on ridiculousness. And I'm not talking about, look, everybody has the right to their own opinion. In my opinion, some of Skip Bayless's takes are just for television. Period. That's what I've always believed. It's his job to find a way to make sense out of some things that are unsensible. That's what I believe. Max was just coming to debate. A great debate doesn't necessarily mean the best for sports television. Max also, like Stephen A. said, an intelligent brother, intelligent guy that clearly has had a way with studying things about African-American culture. When Stephen A. and Max were debating these issues that were very much so prevalent in their time together as host on First Take, especially when it was about black-related issues, oftentimes Max was taking a side further than Stephen A. on black issues. I actually understand what Stephen A. meant by this. I don't think he's did a great job of explaining himself, but it used to bother him. I promise y'all, I'm telling y'all something I know, not what I think. It used to bother him that Max would take the side closer to how a large group of African Americans feel on social issues, right? Because Stephen A. is like, yo, when he leaves this desk, he's a white gentleman. As I already mentioned to you guys earlier, Stephen A. actually had to do for black people, and he feels the pressure to do for black people. That's why he's partially doing black media. That's why I told y'all he was behind the scenes coming up to black interns and asking them were they okay. Max don't have to live with that. Not saying he didn't do that. I never worked with Max. Max was in LA when I was in Connecticut. He was doing Sports Nation. I've never met Max in my life, but I don't think he has that pressure that Stephen A. has. And that's what was bothering Stephen A. because Max was able to take sides closer to the black community, but Stephen A. was actually black and had to live that world outside of just that debate desk. Max was outsmarting Stephen A. If we're being honest, he was out debating Stephen A. And Stephen A.'s, like I said, his brand was pretty much made off the back of Skip Bayless. If we're being completely honest, his brand was to counter Skip. Shannon, you can say the same thing. Give Skip Bayless credit for this. He helped create two of the biggest entities in sports television as we know it in Stephen A. and Shannon. Give him credit for that. I think it's a wake-up call for Stephen A. to realize, man, I'm not going to work with Skip forever. And over the last few years, I feel like he's been trying to put it together. I wasn't the biggest fan of listening to Max versus Stephen A. on television. I'll tell you this, I have a lot of friends that actually enjoyed Max on First Take. And some would even go as far to say it wasn't him the problem. It wasn't him coming to work not prepared. Some were saying, yo, it was Stephen A. that wanted to talk about Kyrie and Kevin Durant every damn day and Aaron Rodgers every damn day, which is kind of like that Skip Bayless formula. And it was Max who was actually trying to diversify his portfolio and talk about different things. I'm telling y'all some stuff that I've heard. I'm being honest with y'all right now. So there's that to it. I mean, to say you were still number one, and then in the same token say you felt like you were going to lose that to Skip, but then you recruited the guy across the way that was number two when you bragged about being number one. I hope I just made sense there. But in my mind, it made sense. That doesn't really make sense to me, though. You know, like Stephen A. was saying that he started his show as number one. He bragged about being number one over Skip. And part of him being number one over Skip and Shannon was when he was with Max, right? Am I missing something here? Am I off? Look, I think Max Kellerman should get another chance with ESPN. I know he was just recently let go. I see that Marcellus Wiley also gave his opinion on Stephen A. recently. I saw that he's, a free man after he was let go from Fox. I see he's doing his own thing. I would like to see Sports Nation get back together. I think that show can work even better today than it did 5-7 years ago before they were, did their own things. I think that show could really work today. And, I hope Max gets another shot. I just don't think Stephen A. was his guy because Stephen A. he never wanted to work with Max. He thought Max was dry. He said it. He felt like it was dry content. I just didn't like the way Stephen A. really never gave Max a chance. He just didn't care for Max the person. If I'm being honest, which I strive to be on this platform, I am a black man, and every chance I get, I'm gonna take the side of black people when I feel like we're not being justified or rightfully represented in situations. This is actually one of the opposite ones. When I tell y'all straight up and down, as much as I love Stephen A., let's be real. If somebody white was doing what Stephen A. did, somebody flatly said, yo, I know that you're a black intelligent guy, but I don't want to work with you. You're Ivy League intelligent. I understand that, but you ain't a journalist. You ain't a former athlete. I don't want to work with you. We'll be calling for their job right now if they said the same thing. But because Stephen A. is one of the most powerful entities at ESPN, he's popping it right now. He can do what he wants. And one of the things he wanted was to not work with Max Kellerman, and he no longer works with Max Kellerman. Another thing Stephen A. Smith alluded to during his time on the Joe Budden podcast was that his new co-host, Shannon Sharpe, did not leave FS1 because he just wanted to leave the program Undisputed. According to Stephen A. Smith, Shannon Sharpe was pushed out. He said he didn't want to leave. He was notified that his services would no longer be needed on Undisputed. Last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, I kind of just want to talk about the landscape of sports television. Well, first off, just let me know what you consume throughout your day of sports television. I know you're rocking out with your boy, but I'm not a daily program that shows on a network just yet, which I am going to get there sooner rather than later. But until we get there, I just kind of want to know what y'all consuming. I know it's not just me. I'm not that arrogant in my own head. Let me know. Are you rocking with the new First Take that features Shannon Sharpe for a couple days a week? Are you rocking with the new iteration of Skip Bayless with Undisputed alongside his three co-hosts, Richard Sherman, Michael Irvin, and also Keyshawn Johnson, or something else? I'm a Colin Cowherd type of guy, if I'm being honest with you guys, especially when he got guests on. That Joel Klatt segment is money throughout the week, if I'm being honest with you guys. But let me know what you consume. I like what Nick Wright and Chris Broussard are doing when they're not talking over each other. They actually make for a really good show. Let me know what you're consuming. I'll say this, at the top here between Stephen A. and Skip and their shows, I just looked at the ratings a couple of hours ago. First Take is killing it right now. First Take is killing it right now. The days that Shannon are on, is even better than that. Those ratings are through the roof right now. Obviously, Shannon's on right after the weekend, which is football, Saturday and Sunday. Everybody was going to get a rub because sports wasn't on this summer when, the ratings were really down with Undisputed after Shannon left, after the NBA Finals, and then, there wasn't no sports. So everybody was down, but First Take was better than everybody else, right, at that time slot. First Take is through the roof right now. They're doing really good with Shannon thus far. Skip, they were really bad to start off that new program. They're better now with football back. They're still not great, and they're not close to First Take right now. I've watched the show a couple times over. I've watched a few segments. If I'm being honest with you guys, it's not as bad as I originally thought. I did think, though, it was going to be like Skip versus Keyshawn some days, then Skip versus Richard some days, and then Skip versus Michael some days. I didn't think it'd be all those dudes. Like, if I had it my way, I probably would do Skip versus Richard Sherman, and then days that he can't go, I would go Skip versus Keyshawn. And then you could just bring in Michael Irvin on the days that he's able to work, and I would have him debate Dallas Cowboys. It appears that Michael, Richard, and Keyshawn are more available than I thought, and they're rolling with pretty much all of them most of the days. I don't know. That's a lot of strong-minded opinions from brothers that were really great at football on the same show for me. Because, again, to me, the show's got to be worked around Skip Bayless and his ridiculous takes. I think that's how that show does the best ratings. It's kind of tough to do that with all the voices talking over Skip. And he's like moderating right now, which I got to give Skip some credit. He's actually doing a damn good job moderating. I was told that Skip could never moderate when I was working at ESPN. I was told that's something he would never do. And the fact that he's doing it, and damn well overall, from what I've seen, shout out to Skip in that part. The show, though, I don't know about the show. I don't know about the show. The irony is Stephen A. and Skip, for their shows, they're both using Deion Sanders extensively, right, for content. If Deion's not showing up on First Take throughout the week, he's for darn sure showing up on Undisputed. He's got relationships with Skip and Michael Irvin. If that's not the case, Michael Irvin's going out to Colorado for a game, or Stephen A. and Shannon are going out to Colorado for a game, or then I seen the whole First Take crew out there for a game. Hell, I saw Pat McAfee, who I want to kind of talk about here in a second, out there as well, you know, with their entire crew to be at Colorado. It's kind of crazy that everybody is using Deion Sanders right now as promotion. He is the hottest thing in sports right now, and Deion is one of those dudes where he can make everybody feel like he's your best friend. That's the kind of ripple effect that he has on the sports media landscape and period. So I'm watching this like weird battle here where it feels like First Take, ESPN, obviously, and FS1 and Fox, they obviously understand the importance of Deion right now. You just throw Deion on the screen, it's money. Look, I've been doing a few extra Deion videos since the season started. I promise y'all, if you throw Deion anywhere right now, for anybody that creates content, it's money. Just throw him out there. Anything Deion's going to do clicks. That's how hot his name is right now because of what he's doing at Colorado. So it's been interesting to see, you know, kind of the battle of Deion on these sports programming. He is moving numbers right now. But overall, so far, I've still seen a better program on ESPN side with First Take, with Shannon and Stephen A. I think that's the best thing you got right now. I really believe Shannon and Stephen A. are going to have some great basketball debates because I believe for a few years now, Stephen A. has been able to get away with some pretty lethargic basketball takes, you know, some pretty dry takes. You know, you talk about the Warriors, the whatever team LeBron's on, the Lakers, you know, the Cavs, whatever. You know, I don't think he's had to really deep dive in things outside of like Kyrie or KD not playing. Now, though, Shannon gonna make him work. Shannon's a prepared guy. He's gonna make him work. Hopefully, he'll stop calling Stephen A. Skip, but he's actually gonna make Stephen A. work. And I think it's gonna create I think they're gonna be great together for basketball television. I'm actually much more excited to hear them talk about basketball than I am football. I think it's going to work with them in basketball. So I've seen some great things from First Take, not so much on the Undisputed side. There's a lot of people talking over there, man. But I did want to finish with who I believe is about to take over all-time slots, Pat McAfee. Man, I brought this up maybe briefly on the platform last year, but Pat McAfee, the way that he's done it, is the way that I need all young journalists to realize is going to be the future of at least sports television, probably how we consume news altogether. Ladies and gentlemen, I want y'all to understand who I am. I went to school at the University of Tennessee. One of the best journalism programs in the country is what Tennessee's got. Literally, Peyton Manning is a professor at Tennessee right now. It's crazy. Anywho, the things my professors were telling me, they were wrong about. You understand that? Towards the end of my time at Tennessee, I was getting bad grades on some of my projects. We call them packages. I don't want to get too technical here, but I was telling people, the higher-ups, professors that called shots and made decisions and graded my packages, I was saying, yo, man, I hear you. I understand this is how you do it, but listen to what I'm telling you. YouTube is coming. Listen what I'm telling you. Twitter is coming. Social media is a real thing. And I didn't think it would be where we are today, but I knew it was coming. And I knew there would be changes in the business as we know it today. And I was selling that to my professors. They wouldn't listen to me. They continued to give me C's and low B's on all of my stuff that I was turning in. It was cool, though, because your boy graduated in 4 years, and I took a semester off to be at ESPN. Tootie-hoo! You know what I mean? Yeah, I did that. But the reality is the business has changed even 25 times more than I could have ever imagined. What we're running into right now is people want a little bit of journalism. They want the news, but they want to hear it from their favorite creator. They want podcasts like interviews. They want personality. They want all of this in one. There's a reason why Stephen A. Smith, as rich as he is right now, is going backwards in creating a podcast. There's a reason why Shannon Sharpe just left next to Skip Bayless, one of the most certified guarantees in sport television is Skip Bayless over the last decade. Shannon Sharpe just left him to go do his own podcast. He's only doing a couple days at First Take. He's thinking about that Club Shay Shay podcast. He's thinking about it. Everybody right now is trying to get some of that Pat McAfee money. And Pat, he had a deal with, I believe it was FanDuel, if I'm not mistaken. He leaves there, and ESPN actually bought him out. Like, Pat McAfee employs his guys. That's his crew. They're under the umbrella of ESPN. Like, ESPN bought Pat McAfee. They're like, yo, we don't have to do this. We don't have to compete with Pat McAfee. He's killing us in the YouTube numbers. He's bringing everybody on his show. We already got him for College Game Day. We're not doing this. We're just going to buy him out. We're ESPN. We don't have to do this little boy games. And I love that, by the way, from my former employer. They just like, yo, bro, it's 2023. We're him. We don't have to do these games. We don't have to play these little lowball games. We're really that. We got money. We're not going to be paying for the middle of the pack guys, the middle of the pack sports commentators or analysts. We want the top dogs. Pat McAfee got freaking Aaron Rodgers on his show every damn week. Like, what are we doing here? Every GM, every coach, every player is on freaking Pat McAfee show. We're going to go get Pat McAfee. We're going to buy him out. We're going to throw so much money, let him keep his IP. We're going to throw so much money his way, he won't say no. And that's what's exactly happened. They made a deal for Pat. Pat's still on his own YouTube channel. They figured it out for Pat. It was a smart play. Everybody in the business right now is backpedaling to figure out how did Pat McAfee do it with his own team. How he was able to launch what he's launched, building something. A former kicker in the NFL was Pat. Has built this. You know what he is, right? He's the drunk white guy at the bar that you just talk sports to for about an hour and a half. He gets on your nerves, but he's compelling. He's entertaining. You know he won't turn down the next beer. You have a good time with him. And that's relatable to America. That's relatable enough to the South because we'll take it. The South will kind of consume superstars in the South. We like celebrities in the South. But Pat's also able to be relatable to the West Coast. He's also doing the thing with wrestling. Like, these things matter. He's also really grasping middle of America, which still matters, by the way, and still consume sports. And they'll watch Pat. So everybody's looking around at what Pat McAfee is creating, and that's what they want right now. For any young journalist that's coming up in the sports business right now, if you're listening to this right now, I want y'all to understand what I've created, and I have not been perfect in what I've created. I've missed some steps, but I'm damn proud of what I created. I know I wasn't wrong for turning down offers and local networks coming out of college. The real money, and to me, the real audience in this space right now is what I'm building. Would I like to have built it quicker? Yes, but I'm only 29, and I'm still going and grinding and doing it pretty much by my lonesome. Obviously, at some point, I'm going to have to build a team. But if you're listening to this right now, just know I seen some of this coming a mile away years ago. Sorry, the hand movement. I'm very passionate about what I'm saying. And I'm telling y'all, this style of how we consume content right now is not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. What Pat McAfee is doing is what everybody right now that's got a YouTube channel, got a podcast, he's what they're chasing. His audience, everybody is chasing what Pat McAfee is doing right now. And he is the leader in the clubhouse. I will still say Stephen A's brand is bigger than Pat today. It will not be that for too much longer. I promise you I'm not wrong about this. I want to thank you guys so much for the time, love, and support. Is what your boy will never take for granted. we are complete with a very lengthy episode 4 of the Hoops Pharaoh podcast. If you enjoyed this content, please make sure you hit me with a like, a subscribe if this is your first time watching. I hope I've done enough to help you come back or have you come back. We got more great quality content on the way. We're going to start counting down the days to the NBA season with some highlights from last year and some highlights coming up of some of the top players in the league. I think we're going to focus on the top players in the league and then kind of work our way on down from there. So if you enjoyed the content, please make sure you subscribe. Hoops Pharaoh, baby. Thank y'all so much for tuning in.